All right, welcome YouTubers. I am Rob Mack, part of Maker's Mashup here, and we are doing our Tech Talk tonight. And for those of you who have not been to our Tech Talk before, basically this is a way that you can ask questions about projects that you are making or projects that you're working on, and our panel of maker experts will help you with your problem. And you will also talk about some of the projects that we're working on and different items. So tonight we have our guests, and we've got Jesse here, and we also have Jim from the Edge of Tech today. And there we go. Hey, everybody.
Hello.
So we've got Jesse, who was on our last show, and Jim from the Edge of Tech. For those people that are not familiar with your show, Jim, you want to give a little blip about the Edge of Tech? Oh, we got no sound for you, buddy.
Maybe I should turn my mic on.
There you go. There you go. We're good.
It's I've never done this before, so how you guys doing?
We are doing great, man. We're doing great.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to tell us a little bit about the Edge of Tech?
Sure. I'm Jim. My channel's the Edge of Tech on YouTube, and you can find me pretty much on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all the good stuff. Basically, I run a channel about 3D printing, putting them together, modifying, all the fun stuff. We have a Monday night show called the Community Showcase, which you've been on, which is awesome.
Yes, great being on that show.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And we, best of all, we get to meet a ton of great people. The community is amazing. So pretty much I just have fun and make some stuff and, have fun doing that.
Yeah. No, that's great, right? It's all about that maker community. And then, Jesse, do you want to tell a little something about yourself for those just joining the show this week?
I'm Jesse Robinson. My day job is an electrical engineer where I design hardware and firmware for automotive sensors. So I do a lot of board design and writing code in C.
And for those of you, I am Rob Mack, and I have a background in a lot of software engineering, and I've always had a passion for a lot of electrical engineering. And I currently work as a project manager or a PMO lead, and I work with a lot of technical people on a lot of different websites. So I work for a consulting company. And what we're going to do is we're going to kick today off to see if anybody had any questions. And if we don't see any questions right away, what we'll do is we'll kind of go through some of our show and tell of things that we're working on. I have some pretty cool stuff here tonight while we're waiting to see if we get any questions in here. And I'll start with my show and tell. So this is going to be in an upcoming video here. I'm not sure if anybody has seen one of these before. Get in there close enough. Now, this is not a mosquito hot end, but I was able to get a hold of a Fadus Dragon hot end. Those, I would say the best thing to describe this would be a mosquito clone. It doesn't have a fan. It's got an all metal hot end, of course. So I'm going to be doing a video on that here pretty soon. And that video that I'll be doing, we'll just kind of comparing that to a standard generic clone of an E3D V6 type nozzle. So that video will be coming up here. I've got that about half done, but we're going to be definitely testing out that nozzle on the channel. So that's one of the things I'm working on. Trying to see if there's any questions in here from our chat.
So Tyler West is in the chats. Tyler is taking it upon himself to rock and roll a new Edge of Tech Makers coin.
Nice.
And I'm actually, one of the projects I'm working on right over here is, holy moly, my wife is blowing me up. Sorry about that. So I'm actually printing a first version behind me on one of my Ender 3s. And we're going to check it out. And he's been texting me today or chatting me today and throwing back and forth revisions, and he's the man. He's rocking it. So I'm excited. Hopefully during the stream I'll pull it off and we'll check it out.
Awesome. And Ben had a question here. Does this mount like an E3D V6? It does. It is a drop-in replacement. So to my knowledge, these are not released yet. I did see some of these. I think a Triangle Labs makes one that looks very similar to this, or maybe the same one. But yeah, this is just an E3D V6 style nozzle, and I've got right here the C201 printer that I'll be going ahead and using that as the printer to test this on while we're still wrapping up changes on the X301. So Jesse, from our last Tech Talk, we were talking a little bit about the batteries I saw here in the chat. Did you kind of want to go through some of those questions?
Yeah, so I wanted to make sure I properly had answered it, and it was basically about reusing batteries from devices. And I had mentioned, ones from phones aren't the best source because a lot of times they're smart batteries. That's in the case of something that has a removable battery. They're usually in a shell, and they got like multiple connections because they actually communicate, and some of them actually like lock out if you change the battery, kind of like a key. But if you have a non-removable battery, you might get something that looks like this, just gray with some Kapton. Like just two leads.
From like an Amazon? From getting that from like an Amazon, the battery from an Amazon?
What do you mean? Like ordering? Well, I mean, you could pull this out of a phone. It's just ones that have removable batteries usually have batteries that have circuitry and communication inside. Those are harder to reuse. If you just get like a dumb battery out of a phone where it's not meant to be taken apart, you can reuse those a little bit easier. So this is like a normal flat pack. I think this was from I don't even remember. This one I did buy on Amazon, but you can find those little pack cells. And then also very common are 18650s, which are cylindrical. This is very similar, but it's a different size. And like laptop batteries are made of these quite often. Drill batteries are made of these quite often. And then things you got to be aware, these usually don't have protection circuits, so I always recommend you get a little protection circuit. You can buy little circuits, and they usually prevent damage from over current, over discharge, things of that nature. And to be the most usable, you're going to need a charge circuit and you're going to need a boost circuit, because a lot of our, the things you're going to be doing with Arduino and stuff like that, they want to be at 5 volts, and your battery is going to be typically 3.7's nominal, but they're usually like 3.2 to 4.2 is like kind of the range that can be in. So you want a charger, like ideally off of USB to charge the battery, and then a booster to go back up to 5 volts. And they do make, Adafruit makes something called a Minty Boost, I think it was called, and it does both of those, but it was a little costly. So we're looking into the best options we can find that has a USB connection, and has both the charge and the boost circuitry. So that I think is still coming. We just wanted to make sure that we didn't give you an answer and just forget about it.
No, that's awesome, Jesse. Let's see, we've got a question here in the chat. Greg's Baker Corner's asking us, anyone ever extend the Y-axis on the Ender 3? I installed a Titan Arrow and want to get my 20 millimeters back, thinking about extending the front of it. So I'll say that's interesting that you're talking about that. One of the videos that I just published this week was how to make a 3D printer bigger and some of the challenges to that. So while I've not extended the size of the Ender 3, the biggest problems you're going to have with that, especially on the Y-axis, is probably custom cutting the extrusion. So if you get a bigger piece of extrusion, you could probably easily put that in there. But on the Ender 3, right where the join comes in from the Z-axis going up, if looking at my Ender 3, there's cuts in it right there, and those might be a little bit more work to do. How about you, Jim? You do any size increases of the Ender 3?
I have not. I've seen some guys, Brian from the First Layer, he made like a super size. There's a couple of guys that have done it, but I've seen Brian's, and he made like a real tall, he called it the Ender 3 XL, right? But I've not seen anyone do the Y. That would be pretty awesome. I'm just thinking, like, can you imagine how sturdy it would have to be to like shift all of that weight back and forth? You know what I mean? But at the same time,
Well, I guess it depends. If we're talking about just getting the extra 20 millimeters back that he lost, or really making it larger, I mean, there's really, you'd have to get a larger bed to really gain anything from that.
In my mind, I'm thinking, the same, 235 wide, one way, but like, 400 long or something. So it's like going way like that,
just this big long rectangle bed going back and forth, right?
Can you imagine the benchy you could print with that?
It'd be great if print skateboards.
Right.
Have you seen the printers that print on belts? They have like an infinite Y. Well,
it's Z. That's technically Z.
Z is the front.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, those big, huge ones that work like a conveyor belt. I did see those.
Right.
Those were was pretty crazy. First time I saw one of those, I'm just like, why? Why would you need infinite length on your 3D printer? But they were printing some cool stuff on it. I don't remember what, but I remember it was pretty cool at the time.
And one cool thing is if it goes over the edge, it can you could make something so it pops off, kind of like the original MakerBot, the cupcake had like an automator thing, which it had a belt and it would just print and pop.
Well, Carl from NAC, he did the White Knight, and now I'm going to forget the name of the new little one he brought to Earth, but he had them both at Earth, and the little one actually fit inside of the White Knight, the bigger one, right? And that's what he was doing. He was rocking out maker coins, and they were just going to the edge and popping off, going to the edge and popping off. And he would do this all day. The Squire, thank you guys. I knew you guys would know it. But Carl's a good dude. Actually, I was looking up a photo quick. He did a full Thanos sword, and I'm looking for it now. And I held on to it. He did it literally in two halves long, and then glued those two halves together.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I'd seen a video on that printer, and it's impressive to watch it run. It really is.
It's really cool. He actually wants to go for the Guinness Book of World Records for the longest consecutive print. They wouldn't let him do it at Earth because he couldn't be in the parking lot, and you couldn't power overnight, so we couldn't keep it going overnight, right? But it was a total blast to see. I saw it at Murph, and then we saw it at Earth. If I can find the picture of it, I'll find it, and I'll you guys I'll pop it on here.
Okay. Speaking of Earths and stuff, are you going to Murph, Jim?
That's a tough one. I'm gonna try. Okay. So with myself, I own a DJ business as well. I have a wedding booked already because they moved to Earth a weekend so they could have the bigger building. So I actually have a wedding booked already. And so the catch is my wife we're supposed to have our first baby right in the beginning of May. So it's very close within that time frame. And so what I might do is talk to the couple and see if a friend of mine can, take over and do their wedding for them. And then Lindsay will, come with me probably, or we'll see. And then if that happens, I'll be there. The problem is it's going to cost me a lot of money because I already have a down payment for that wedding. And so I'll lose that plus the rest of the money. And then, but it'll be awesome. I'm trying. We'll put it that way. How about you guys?
Probably gonna. Well, I think Jesse, you were going, right?
I'm gonna try to go to Murph, and I don't know if my wife is going to go. She's not super techie on stuff, so she gets kind of bored at some of those.
Yep. So we're definitely planning on being there. I was originally going to sponsor a booth there, but the problem was it was like right after the holidays, and I was talking to the wife, and I'm like, yeah, we'll just go ahead and get the booth for this. And then I went like last week or whatever to go look, and they were all sold out. So we will probably be there, but we won't have a booth, unfortunately. So
I tell you what, while I love having the booths and hanging out, Murph, have you guys done a Murph yet at all?
Yes. Yep. 2 years
ago. It is absolutely ridiculous. It's crazy.
Oh my
God.
Yeah.
And I think I'll probably, if I can get down there, I'll probably hang with the TH3D guys. Tim, said, come on down and, camp at our booth and stuff like that, which is great. But I am kind of happy I won't have a booth, because then you can walk around and talk and you can see things. And you know, at Milwaukee Maker Faire, where I met you guys, Saturday I didn't, unless I got food or went to the bathroom, I didn't move at all from the booth. It was super packed on Saturday.
Yep,
Then,
it was crazy.
And I had my wife and a very good friend of mine with me, and we were all crazy talking to people. Sunday it slowed down a little bit, but it wasn't that slow. And I still couldn't get out and film. So I think I filmed 2 videos or something. Yours and I think I did yours and Briggs and Stratton, that lawnmower thing they had there. But I think it's hard to have a booth at one of those. I do.
You got to do one or the other, right? You're either going to present
Right.
or you're going to show up and just enjoy it.
Or have someone cover you so you can.
Yeah. So there was a question in there about the TP4056. They were talking about the that one. That's the one I use as well for running the charge, but it doesn't have a boost to 5 volts in it. It will put out 5 volts, I believe, if you have 5 volts going through it. Yep. Yeah. But it won't boost the 3.7 up to 5. So.
And I did find some cheap, like I found a couple of options I sent you, Rob, because you wanted cheap that people could just buy.
Yep.
The couple that I found that had everything I wanted didn't have a USB connection. And you're trying to find something that's all in one that people don't have to solder or anything. So I might have to make one.
So I found, and I'm not like against people soldering, of course. I mean, that's all part of the videos we do on the channel. But what I did find is I think it was like $1 each or less than $1 each. And it's basically a mini boost module that gets the job done. So I just said, I'll just put the boost module in it. So it just takes the 3.7, goes through the charging circuit, and then hits the boost to go to the 5 volts. So.
Nice.
It'll work. Not as optimal, but better than making a circuit board. I mean, not that I'm against that, but this project, I wanted to keep it simple. So, So what other projects are you currently working on, Jesse? I don't see any other questions in the chat right now.
So I just finished my my lighted tree topper because I talked about it last time, but we bought a tree topper from Amazon. It lasted a season. It was like $20. And I'm like, you know what? I'll make something that works better and costs us 4 times as much and takes 1 million hours. And so I did such a thing. And it is there.
That is not doing it justice, my friend.
No, it's hard to see.
Yeah, it's so cool.
There's 31 LEDs in it. It has 5 animation modes that I can change by going to like a website that's hosted on my server. Basically, it just goes to a different address, and then the ESP reads it as like a command.
Are they adjustable?
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're kind of like NeoPixels, but they're the APA 107, and the APA 107. Its thing is it's SPI. So instead of having those really particular timing things, it passes a clock too. It has clock and data. So you're just you have a little more room. And so I bought those from Adafruits, the APA 102s, and they had a breakout board. And I bought the breakout board, but it only had 6 pins. So it had data in, clock in, power, and then the other side was like ground, data out, clock out. I'm like, in wiring that'd be a pain if you're daisy chaining. So I designed my own circuit board.
Nice.
It had 8 pins, so it had power, ground, and data in, data out, and then power, ground. Data in, clock in. On the other side, it was the outs and power and ground. So basically 4 wires in, 4 wires out. And then it was also on the shelf. I made some panels through a company called PCBWay. And I used a syringe to apply solder paste, and I ran them through a toaster oven that I converted, to a reflow oven. And that worked pretty well. And I recently just did another order, and they sent me a stencil. So then I can use a stencil to apply solder paste, which is much more efficient. And I'm planning on selling the boards eventually because no one has that specific board out there. I like being able to 4 in, 4 out. It's just so much easier. So
that's cool.
And those are really sweet LEDs. I like having it be SPI based versus the NeoPixel specific timing.
Nice.
Yep.
That is super. Myself, I don't think without some learning and help, I could do that. So that's awesome, man.
Thank you.
So
I got this light right here.
I love light projects.
And those in the case behind me, behind me, I have a enclosure, and the top, what you actually see is a workbench. So it's 35 inches deep and 8 feet wide on this side that you can see. And then on a little farther over this way is taller. So I have my taller printers in that side, and it's all enclosed and there's filtration. And so I did RGB lights in there, and I think I'm going to pull them and I'm going to do some addressable lights because while I like this, it looks good. It's just not good enough. But that's down the line. I got plenty of projects to do before that happens.
And if you're doing like a strip in a normal orientation, you can find these LEDs are called dot stars, kind of their trade name.
Okay.
You can find strips of them already made. These ones, because I have them going in and out and all around, I wanted individuals. But yeah, look up dot star.
Right. So, Michael Castle says the way my lighting is, it looks like I'm in front of a green screen. Hey.
Yeah, it does. It looks pretty cool to go around your head just from the lights in there. So.
Yeah, I've been, after Monday's show, I had Rob on from Vision Miner, and he was just on Joe Telling's. Joe Telling just did a video on 3D printing nerd with him too. And I had Rob on Monday, and like I was telling you before, I had this soft box right here. And it was so bright. It was terrible. So I got some new lights, and I've been really trying to play with that because I learned that lighting can really kill you, or it'll help you or kill you, right? So I'm trying these different techniques. Like this one over here is like way over this way, and this one's like over this way. It's yeah.
Yeah, I find that webcam cameras are just really bad at picking up the light, and just getting a good focus, because they just don't seem to do very well. So just waiting to get to the point where I can go ahead and buy a new body for my SLR, so that way I can just use that. And
well, normally I have my Canon, my T7i. I just have not, because this is temporary in the space. I haven't run the HDMI cords I need to run and all that to plug it in.
Yep.
So I've been using this C30, or what is it? The Logitech, the 930. And it's not terrible. Like you said, it looks better. But just so you know, I shared my screen with that Thanos sword. I don't know if you see it in the thing there. I wanted to show you how tall this thing is. It literally was printed in two pieces, two halves.
Hang on. You gonna share your screen there? Or?
Oh, nice.
Oh, let's see.
Oh, you sent it to here. Oh, I got it. There we go.
There we go. So that's sitting on my foot because I didn't want it to, sit on that concrete. But that's how tall that thing was, and literally printed in two halves.
Wow, that is crazy.
And by halves, I mean the long way. So, like, it's awesome, and it's not that heavy. It was actually pretty cool.
How long was it total? Do you know?
No, but I can find out. It's actually someone in the chat might probably know offhand, but I can find out for sure.
No, I was just curious if you knew. I mean, it looks like it's at least 12 feet long. So
it's long. It's awesome.
Yep.
Oh, Tyler's making jokes. I didn't catch it, but nice.
Looks like Paul was questioning, I'm not sure, the interface for the 3D printer.
We're at.
How does the interface work? I don't know if we were talking about something.
Oh, are you talking about the lights? Were you talking about the lights when you asked that?
Possibly. Some of the printers have outputs for lights specifically, or were you just running them as off like a remote or something?
Well, the new SKR, R's got on it.
You pretty much, if you're running Marlin, you can do it pretty much anywhere. But these are not hooked up to my printers at all. They're just it's a strip light. It's actually, there is a remote, but it's also connected to Google Home, And so I can tell them to turn off, turn on, turn colors. Last time I demonstrated that, people started yelling at me in the chats because they were like, "You're turning lights off." Especially Tim from TH3D was on, and I was telling my shop to turn on and off, and he's like, "Stop it, my lights are flashing." So, but yeah, it's fun. Let's see. Rebecca said, "Did you see my question?" Oh,
How long have we been into 3D printing?
Well, I think I've been into it longer than I've owned a 3D printer. Geez, it's been at least a couple of years now. So, yeah, I got into it a little bit later, but definitely full head of steam. I know, Jesse, you've had one for quite a while.
Yeah, I'm trying to look it up. My first printer was many years ago. It was a CTC dual extruder printer from eBay, and I think it was like $450 at the time. And a couple years later, I bought the Monoprice Maker Architect for like $350, and it was a better printer. So they just kind of kept dropping. I'm gonna find the order to see when it was, but it's probably at least 5 to 7 years ago.
Oh man, you guys are making me look bad. No. So a friend of mine, Steve, it's all his fault, got one. Man, it wasn't a printer bot or something like a $1,200 printer, like I don't even know, 6 years ago or whatever it was, right? And then recently, I bought mine last year at Black Friday weekend. So I got it right in the beginning of December last year. So it's been right over a year for me. And it's one of those things where I dove in. I was latched when I got it. As soon as I started printing, it hooks you, you know.
I think everybody's story starts like that. I started and I couldn't stop.
and it's like, and I only had one. And then all of a sudden my enders, you know, multiplied, and like somehow overnight you put water on them after midnight or whatever, and they multiplied. No, but
don't feed them after midnight. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So about a year for me. I'm trying to remember what was all in her question. When did I build? Same time, about a year ago. Well, in December 2018 is when I built my first Ender 3, and from what I hear from a lot of people, I'm so lucky I started with an Ender 3.
So I found my original order. It was from 2014, and it was a pre-built wooden printer. It was a MakerBot knockoff, and then a couple years later, I got my Monoprice MakerBot knockoff, and now I have that one, which we've upgraded to an SKR board, which I still got to get tuned.
Yeah, that was a fun project.
Yeah, and I have a Prusa, and I have a MakerBot, a Monoprice Select Mini for printing miniatures was my goal, but I haven't changed the nozzle yet.
Yep.
Nice. Which one do you use the most?
The Prusa, now that it works. I had trouble with bed adhesion. And some people do, some people don't. I did, and for a printer you pay that much money for, I just wanted it to work, and it wasn't working. It was very frustrating. But I got some suggestions several times about using a Brillo pad on the surface, and now it just sticks and works.
Are you using the Smooth Pei?
Yeah, that's because that's all they had at the time.
Yeah, that stuff's rough. Man, it's like you said, it's kind of like hate or love-hate relationship with the Smooth Pei.
Yeah,
that's what I've got on a couple of my printers here. The only one that doesn't have it is the Ender, but that Smooth Pei, it looks like glass. I mean, it just looks, it comes off of there, and it's so smooth.
I'm trying to remember where I just put mine, but I had the Smooth Pei Flex from TH3D on my Ender 5 Plus, which is a huge plate, and I had some issues too with that. I trying to get it to stick. I had to squish more. I had to heat it up more and let it like preheat itself a little longer. And then I pulled it off and put the textured powder coated sheet he has on there. Oh my God. I love that thing.
So I think Jesse and I found the secret to PEI when he was over here and we were printing parts. And it was totally by accident. So I've got the Smooth Pei on my Core XY here, and Jesse, we were trying to print on that
diffraction
grating. So we're trying to print on the diffraction grating, but we were also having trouble getting it to just print on the Smooth PEI. So eventually, and I would have never thought this was the cause, but when we got it down to, it was like 15 millimeters a second or whatever, we just slowed the print down enough, it stuck to the PEI. And that was the part that was interesting because, you know, I've always been able to lay the first layer down or the brim or the skirt or whatever at like, you know, 40 millimeters a second, and it goes down just fine. But once we really slowed it down, it stuck really well.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
That was an interesting material. That's if you haven't ever played with that, Jim, yet, it's diffraction grading. You know about that?
I heard. The first time I saw it. David Shorey was sharing some stuff he was doing, and then I was like, "What is this?" So I had to look into it, and you can use it a bunch of times, which is really cool.
Yeah, it was super neat. So for that have not heard or seen about it, Jesse, you want to talk about what it is a little bit?
Yeah, so basically, I think the stuff is similar to what you see like on a DVD case, the holographic, and it just kind of like the light one way acts differently. So I saw an Adafruit video on it. I follow them a lot, I guess, and they had printed on it, and it basically, you know, when you print on a surface, you kind of get that surface into the bottom of your print. So it actually puts that surface into the bottom of your print, and your print becomes like kind of a rainbow holographic. And when you tilt it different ways, you see this rainbow shimmer, and it's really awesome.
It's really cool. And let me scoot back over. You know what's funny is it's not that expensive, and like I said, you can use it a bunch of times, which is cool.
And what was neat is the reason we were using it was Jesse came over. We were putting the SKR board in that MakerBot clone. And when we did that, we needed to print a new display panel because the one that was there obviously couldn't be used with the SKR board.
Mm-hmm.
So we printed a brand new panel front for it, and we did the face of it with that diffraction grading. So the interface looks all, you know, 3D rainbowish on the front. So and didn't we print that in like a purple or something too? And that made it even. Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it looks.
You'll
it
see
looks
that,
pretty
Murph,
cool.
if I go.
Cool. So Rebecca said, I keep hearing, honey, do you mind if I buy another 3D printer? LOL. At the beginning, yes. Now it's, honey, where are you going to put that? That's my, like, you can't have it unless you find a place for it. That's the thing. But I wanted to show, so I talked about flex plates, and I don't know if a lot of people, I mean, I imagine a lot of people in the chat have seen them or whatever, but my test maker coin just printed and got done. I need to dial in my settings really badly on this. I just threw like default settings. I literally didn't change anything. So I probably should look at what they were set at. I just said go. But if you have a flex plate opposed to glass or, you know, PEI straight on aluminum or something like that, one of the cool things is when your print's done, you literally take it off, give it a couple flex, and this is a smaller part, but it just, I missed the camera, but it just slides off, and you're done. Oh, it's over here. So I changed all my printers to these. Apparently I'm backwards. So I changed all my printers to these. It doesn't matter what kind you use. If you like these, or you like the Wham Bam, or you like any of the things you find off of wherever you find them, right? But they're metal on the back. They stick to a magnet. You flex them when you're done. And this is the ginormous one for that Ender 5 Plus with the Smooth PEI. And you know, you just get done and pop the stuff off. It's awesome.
I bought an extra plate. They were clearing out the Prusa-sized ones.
Yes.
So I bought one, and I put build tack on the front, so I have my own texture plate now.
Nice.
Because they were like impossible to get for forever.
Let's see. Flex or curmudgeon.
So I want to. Why don't we take a second? I don't see any new questions in here. But want to shift the conversation to the Scara arm. So not sure if anybody is watched that video, but there is, we've got the part one of the video out here. where we're building a Scara robotic arm, and that robotic arm is a 3D printer. So instead of your Core XY or your Cartesian printer, it is a Scara arm printer. So it looks like a hand with a nozzle in it, and it's just moving around printing. So wanted to give an update on that because we made that video, the first step of it, probably about a month and a half ago. But we haven't done the second half. So the reason why we haven't completed the second half is that I had to reach out to the original author of the Scara arm. And this was all about the time that Marlin 2.0 was coming out. I was following a thread about someone adding the MP Scara capabilities to Marlin 2. So here's where the problem was, is that originally the Scara arm was designed with an MKS Gen L board. So I got that, and I got it installed, and I got it all running, but there was calibration issues in the Scara arm's ability to actually print something. So I got to the point where I'd left it, and we had the holidays, and then what happened was we got to the point where I reached out to the author and said, hey, they've got this now in Marlin 2. I'm going to go ahead and use Marlin 2.0 with the Scara arm. So I got it, and it's close to working. Everything actually works. It moves around, does all the stuff that it needs to do. So I could hopefully wrap up that video. The only problem is it's printing the cube too big, and I've got to shrink it down. Now, if it was a Cartesian printer, it would be easy. I would just change the steps per millimeter. Unfortunately, when I do that with the Scara arm, all that it does is make it this long surfboard-looking calibration cube. So want to have cubes, not surfboards. So I've been working with the author of the original Scara arm, and we're trying to get it running with Marlin 2.0. So that video has taken a little bit longer than expected, but for those of you that have been following it, waiting for that second half of that video, that's why we haven't done it yet, is because we've been working with the original author. And I told him, I said, I've been trying to make this a series so that way other people can build a Scara arm 3D printer. I don't know that it's a great practical use of a Scara arm. I think it's got some cool possibilities, but it is at least the most not a long-term solution for 3D printing, in my opinion. It's just doesn't have the quality that you would get. But when you think about it, 90% of it's plastic, so not a lot of good tolerances there. So that's the one project that I've been working on here that I know a lot of people have been waiting for on the channel. So so let's see, what else do we see? Do we have any other questions in the chat? If not, we'll talk about something that I saw. We were talking about the Discord. So for those of you that are new to the channel, check out in the description. There's a link to our Discord. And it is not just your run-of-the-mill chat room for other like-minded people. We actually operate it as more of an online makerspace. So people get in there, they ask questions about projects, they post their pictures of projects they're working on. So it's more like a makerspace than it is a chat room. But the really great thing about it is we see a lot of different questions. And Jesse, you and I think we're seeing this a lot in the Discord this week, of burning a bootloader on a device that has no bootloader. So the one that came to mind was the Melzi board, or the Ramps board that came with the Raise Cube. And that Raise Cube Melzi board was really garbage. And the firmware on it was an alpha version of Marlin, so it doesn't work with any of the modern G codes. So through that, but Jesse, you know more about burning bootloaders on a lot of this stuff. Why do manufacturers not put bootloaders on all of these?
It's probably just if they don't have one readily available, it's probably just it's easier just to put on something that works and they assume no one's ever going to update it. Designing a bootloader yourself isn't the easiest thing in the world to do. But I mean, Arduino and stuff, all of those have them built in, so I don't know why you wouldn't just take that as your core, because those are Arduino compatible boards, I imagine.
Yep. Well, they're like a Melzi board or a Ramps board, so they're all they're running that same type
An
of
AVR.
2650. Yeah, that
Yeah,
AVR.
Mega. Yep.
Yep. So they're all running that one, but yeah. So basically, what we had to do with that board in order to burn that bootloader was it had the 2 expansion ports on it, so the EXP1 and EXP2, and then we used like Mozzie and all that, and plugged those pins in there, and then that's how we burnt the bootloader through there. Was kind of the kind of hacking it through that interface that was there for the display board. So that's something that we saw this week, and that we had all of that in the video. And I think at one point they had tried it a couple of times and then eventually had gotten it. But I think that took 2 or 3 days before that person was able to get that bootloader going. But I think then once we did that, so just one of those cool things.
Is the Ender the same thing? Does the Ender not have its bootloader on there by default?
At least the Ender 3 doesn't. I don't know about any of the newer ones, but that one.
The well, I don't know about the new ones, but I heard the 115 board is at least the silent board does come with it on there. The Enders, the original ones, like I had to burn my bootloaders on. I used Arduino and did it that way. But I know maybe someone out there has a new one that can, tell us what that is, because I have not had one in probably about a year. So I know mine was a lot different than some others.
Yeah, Greg said that they do not, and I'm not sure if he's referring to the old or the new, but he did make the comment that I think we even mentioned last week last time, the Ender 3 doesn't come with thermal protection on, which is something they should.
Well, I think they finally got that worked out, didn't they?
I was going to say, again, the new ones actually might. I actually had someone comment on some videos of mine that he just got one recently, and it did. But it was a 115 board, though. So I'm not sure if that's something they just turned on 115. And what's really weird? Oh, not really weird. It's really cool is that Creality is, I think they're doing a good job listening to people. They don't do everything right, mm-hmm. but they listen to what people have to say, and I think they're killing it. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
they're what I recommend.
Yeah, they're definitely becoming the Commodore 64, if you will, of 3D printers. I mean, everybody. Well, I mean, that's kind of how it is, right? I mean, when you think back to the days of when the Commodore, you had like the Apple II and all that. The really, first consumer model of a personal computer that was very easy to use, comparatively speaking, of course. But the Ender 3 is just the same type of thing. It's a very mass-produced machine. It works really well. It gets the job done. And it's got expandability, right? I mean, lots of people can expand that.
I think their biggest ability is because they went so cheap and went for that market, is they have such a wide user base that most of your best support is going to come from the people that already have it.
Yep.
Oh, for sure. And there's so many people, us, all of us that have them, right, that go back and say, hey, we don't like this, or they see it. There, I'm an admin or a moderator on almost all their all of the Ender forums out there or Facebook pages, right? And they're in there. They're in there either with their usernames or as Creality or whatever. And we have a moderator chat, between all the moderators. That way, hey, this person's doing this, we need to watch him in other pages, that kind of thing, right? But they're constantly saying, hey guys, can you look at this? It's a good suggestion. Or did you guys see this? And we're calling out the Creality folks that are in that chat. I won't call them out by name, but and they do see it. I think Ben had a good point. Some of it gets lost in translation, and that's definitely true. But you know, they listen. They bring out some stuff that is good for the whole community. Really, I mean, if you look at the prices they're doing, I mean, you can get a pretty dang good printer for.
Yeah,
I mean, the Ender 3 is what, $160, $180 now or something like that.
it depends. You find them on sale, but yeah, it's like sub 200 is still.
Right.
I mean, you know, people pay well over $200 for a gaming console. So, you know, having a machine that can make more machines is, you know, kind of a cool thing for under $200. So, so I see Boss Hog out there, but it looks like JC's got a question here. I really need help for the community. Thank you. I have a customer that wants me to print a product, but it's bigger than the MK3S build volume. Then it kind of trails off about a CR10. So the CR10's got a bigger volume than the 3S, if I remember correctly.
What'd you say? The CR10 has a bigger volume than what?
The
Then the
MK3S.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Prusa.
Prusa? Yeah.
Oh yeah. So my CR10.
I just don't off the top of my head, but yeah, the CR10 is like 300 by 300. Yep.
Yep, 300 by 300 by 400, I believe. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure.
Prusa's looks like it's 250 by 210 by 210.
Yeah, the Prusa is basically Ender 3 size, right?
Not
Actually,
sure.
a little smaller.
I think it's a little bit bigger. Your Prusa is bigger than Ender 3.
I do not have an Ender, so I don't have the comparison there.
235.
Yeah, I've got
235 by 235 by 250.
I'm pretty sure it's a little bit bigger.
Yeah, it's 235 by 235 by 250. I think officially they call it 220 by 220 by 250, but if you throw 235 in your settings, you're fine.
And JC says, I need to know how much you should charge for a part. I can't really say. I don't charge. I mean, I don't produce parts and charge for them, so I can't really say that. I could tell. I do know that if you go to any of the 3D printing services, they vary widely, and they can be pretty darn expensive for getting some 3D prints done. So I would say check there if you're wanted to find out.
Yeah, that's a hard question. Also, because then you're dealing with, are you charging for the design? Or are you charging for the print?
Yep.
So that's a tricky thing to tread. Make sure you look at like the licensing on that specific part they want you to print. And there's some videos out there that kind of tell you how to charge. I haven't found a good way to do it yet. I kind of charge by the job, and I'm like, if it's under 8 hours, I just charge $10 regardless.
Yep.
For most of that.
And I a lot of times when my 3D printer's just idle, which yes, it happens from time to time, I'm glad to just print something for the cost of the filament. I mean, if I'm using half a roll of filament, then that or buy me a roll of filament and I'll print whatever you want.
And it depends if I'm an individual or a customer, or a business. I'll charge businesses, but for customers, it'd probably just be a filament cost.
Right.
But businesses, they pay for outside services, so they assume they're going to be paying for an outside service, and you can charge them a little more.
So I see Boss Hogs in here. I'm trying to see if he was. I believe he wanted to come on air here today, so I was gonna send him an invite here. Boss Hog's one of our MVPs in the channel in our Discord, and he's always hanging out with us, and he does a lot of robot stuff. So I was kind of hoping he'd be able to hop on and talk about some of the robots that he's working on.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of cool stuff that goes on in that Discord, and there's so many people with a lot of different projects. One of the other MVPs that we've got out there is Arcade Classroom, and she is a STEM teacher, and we're always collaborating on different projects. We've got one right now that we're working with Elegoo on. They've sent some electronics kits, and we're working on a STEM project for that we'll eventually have a video for educators. But yeah, it's one of the things that we've got in the queue right now that we're working on. It's pretty cool.
So for the people watching, where can we find you? I know you said it earlier, but I know there's a lot of new people in the chat. So throw it out there.
As far as where to find
like Maker's Mashup and that kind of thing.
Right. So Maker's Mashup, of course, you're looking at our YouTube channel. We are on YouTube. We're also on Twitter. And if you look in the description, we also have a website. And then our Discord is our online makerspace. So our online makerspace is really cool. Lots of people working on projects in there, always getting help. There's usually day or night someone in there that can help you with any kind of project you're working on, and it's all community source. So you're just helping others, and if you're not a person that needs help with something, maybe you'd like to hang out and help others. It's really great. We started it up. I want to say like 6 months ago. There were 100 people in there. All kinds of people just hanging out all over the country too, or all over the world, I should say. So not just the United States, we're all over. So we get people that, join in during the day or join in during the night. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
Nice.
I
was thinking about that.
Why don't you talk about EduTech a little bit for anybody that came in new that doesn't know who you are and may know a little bit more about my channel here.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm Jim from the EduTech. I have a YouTube channel, mostly about playing with 3D printers. Soon you'll find resin printers on my channel. There's one over my shoulder here. I'm looking at a slicer, not the camera. There we go. So there's one hiding right here that I'm having some issues with, but hopefully be a video on there soon. But
how many printers are you up to now?
Officially 12. 4 of those are resin, and 0 resin printers are on my channel yet. so I have 2 Anycubic. I have a Photon and a Photon S. This one right here is a Spark Maker. Okay. And I have another one in a box right over here that I can't say what it is yet, but you'll see it soon on the channel. But yeah, you can find me at The Edge of Tech here on YouTube. You can find me at The Edge of Tech with a K on Twitter because I was really original and someone already had taken that. Edge of Tech official on Facebook and Edge of Tech on Instagram. But it's a lot of fun. We have a Monday show. Like I said earlier, you were on it a while ago, right? It seems like
it was before the holidays.
It's a blast. It's like this. We talk a lot of times. The show I do is called the Community Showcase. So it's all about, unless I get lazy and I don't have people, or it's holidays and I don't get a lot of people lined up. Most of the time, it's all about someone in the community. Like when we brought you guys on, what are you doing? What are you working on?
Yep.
What's your projects? Because people want to see that. It's like a giant adult show and tell is what it is. So, but I'm right now. I was just working on slicing that Maker coin because the Maker coin. Literally, I just threw it in with defaults. I didn't even pay attention to my settings. I just hit print, and it did not turn out well. So it is okay to have failures, right? So the front of this, let's see if I can get this thing to zoom. Let's see.
Oh, that looks good. No, it was good.
Oh, it's not good. I have the pictures. That
looks cool.
Let's see. It won't zoom. I think the coin is great. There we go. I think the coin is great. My print sucked. So it's kind of like that, and then around the side it's supposed to have, let's see, gotta love these cameras. Well, it's supposed to have my glasses right from the logo around all the way. It didn't print them all, and I definitely sliced this wrong. But Tyler, you're the man. I'm working on slicing this thing again and getting it printed to make you proud.
So I gotta ask a question because you brought up you said 4 resin printers.
Yes.
Okay, so 4 resin printers. So, have you printed stuff with the resin printers?
I have very limited because I was trying to save it for the videos I need to make,
Sure.
right? But one of the Anycubic photons I got from Greg, I believe he's in the chat right now, actually. And he wanted to sell it, and I was like, I'll take it, send it over. And he's a Wisconsin guy as well. So I printed a couple things which I really liked. I can grab them. This little spark maker, I have 3 prints sitting back there. They're not cured yet. But so I have some printing with them, yes, under my belt, but not a ton.
Okay, so here's the question then. What was your use case for buying them? So what was really the reason? Did you have a purpose, or just wanted to try it? Was it hey, this looks like a neat technology, or hey, I've got a real use for this, and this is what I'm going to use it for?
For me, the first one is because I saw Greg say, I was like, man, I really want to try this, but we were in the house. I didn't want to print resin in the house. We have a lot of small animals. But when Greg said he wanted to sell his, I was like, maybe I should do it. And it really was just to make videos and to get my feet wet with it, because I don't have a lot of experience with it. And it's just like buying my first Ender 3. It's something new. It's exciting. I wanted to play with it, right? But now that I've seen some of the stuff that can come off of it, it's going to be, I'm actually going to throw one of these on it, and because I just want to see what it looks like. But just the stuff that can come off of it is phenomenal.
So that's what I've seen on them too, is that the prints look really, really great. But my problem, and here's where my problem comes in. I would love to get one, and I really, really want to get one. I think, like you, for the experience of getting one of the resin printers, trying it out, see what it is. But after that, I can't come up with a reason why I need one. That's where the problem comes in. I mean, like, my son does a lot of models. I think, Jesse, you paint a lot of models as well. Miniature, I mean, if I was into that and I was doing that as a hobby, for sure I would get one. But outside of that, like, all of my 3D printing is so utilitarian. It's like, I need a part for this, or I want to make an enclosure for this. Yes, I print some other things for, family, friends, and even some cool things for myself. But for me, it's very much a tool to make other tools or to make other projects. So that's why I was asking. I was just kind of curious if it was interest or really coming up with a use for it.
Well, and there is a lot of things you can do besides the miniatures. A ton of people do that. I mean, I can't say anything bad about that, because the market for that stuff is so big. But I've seen a lot of really cool things too, because you can do functional stuff in resin, as long as you have the volume to do what you're doing. And it doesn't need to be super strong. Some of the stuff is strong, and you can get stronger resins, I believe. But some of the stuff is just super brittle, right? And I think I've seen some really cool prototyping in resin, which is kind of fun too.
I think the one thing I saw out of resin that makes me want to try it, but my fear is I don't need to expand my hobby base any more than I'm already doing, is that I saw there's a type of resin that you can get, and you can make a ring out of it, but then you put that ring in like a sand-like base and pour the metal in it, and it vaporizes the ring and leaves the actual impression of the ring itself there.
Yeah.
And I saw a video of somebody doing that, and I'm like, that's absolutely amazing. I would love to go ahead and make, like a ring and just, basically cast your own metal. I was like, that is really cool, but gosh, I don't know that I could afford to start that kind of a hobby.
A lot of jewelry makers use it, but I think what method they do is I think they make a positive and then take a mold and get some wax, and then they do a lost wax method, and they use like plaster of Paris, I think. Sand doesn't hold. Seems like kind of a waste using sand with resin, because sand doesn't hold the detail.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was sand. I honestly don't remember, but I saw this guy make like this whole video, and he poured the metal into it, and it looked, when it was done, and maybe it was ceramic, it looked exactly like like what was printed with the resin. And it needed to be cleaned up and polished a little bit, but other than that, I was very, very impressed.
I'd be interested in what kind of resin, because like I've asked people, like, can I use 3D printed stuff in there, and their worry is that usually you have to bake it out when you're doing stuff like that. You bake it out so it becomes hollow. Like where does the stuff go? If it doesn't turn all to air, then that material has to be somewhere. Otherwise, it's going to be on your part. So it'd have to be a really interesting resin. So if you can find that, I'd be interested in seeing it.
Yeah, I'll have to see, I'm sure I can just look through my history and find that video. But it looks like Donald says that it's a lost wax technique.
Right.
And that's what I said, where you make a positive, and then you would that's your positive. You'd use a mold, or
So there's
a mold, and then you would use wax, and then you're basically.
Oh, I see. So you're basically making a wax mold after you've made the plastic mold.
Well, there's a wax castable resin.
Okay.
I'm trying to find it. I just watched a video on this recently.
I bet you we watched the same video, that it was like this video, because that's what it was. It was some sort of resin, and as soon as it was done, it just like vanished. And I didn't understand the science behind it, but I thought that was very, very cool to, be able to make my own jewelry or whatever. Like I said, would be just a crazy hobby of making stuff out of metal, but.
So I posted something in our chats, because I can't post a link, I don't think. It's I believe it was called Power Resin, and they have a wax resin. I know a bunch of people in the chat are probably yelling us. Brian says it. Hey, Brian Vines, how you doing? And happy dinner time.
Yeah, hey Brian, how are you? Brian does hang out in our chat as well. He hangs out in that Discord once in a while.
So,
how are you tonight, Brian?
I'm gonna pop this in real quick here.
I'm looking for your
link. Is it in private chat?
It's in the private chat.
Oh, there we go. I was looking in the regular chat. That's why.
And then we also had Donald said there are wax 3D printers. And yeah, that makes sense. I mean, they have chocolate 3D printers. So
yeah, so that's one of the things I've wanted to try too. Not necessarily chocolate, but some sort of paste extruder that squirts out whatever.
Yeah, I'll help you with that. I want chocolate.
Yeah. Hello, Sweden. Hey, Benny. How are you tonight?
Ooh, I was in Sweden a couple months ago.
Yeah, weren't you working on some telemetry device or something?
I was doing field trials for a sensor. I was working with an automotive supplier, and so I was working on some code. Another thing as we get back to the resin uses, besides making miniatures, which I would do if I had one, a lot of prop makers use it, especially ones that are making casts, because there's so much less cleanup when you do it in resin. So like Bill Duran from Punished Props, he'll do a lot of his fine detail work on a resin printer, because there's just less cleanup, and because he uses that as his master, and he makes a mold and then casts everything out of urethanes.
That's really cool. Now, have you done any molds, Jesse? I think you mentioned you had done like some silicone.
Yeah, so I did some silicone 2-part molds back when I worked at Mineric Drives. We did an encoder for the back of a motor, and basically it's just like a magnet sensor, and you'd have a magnet wheel. But we made a positive out of metal, and then I casted it using wax and silicone to make a 2-piece mold, and then I put the circuit board in there, and I put the cables in there, and then I used a urethane, and we used that to make our samples to see how they worked. And eventually we had a molding company make it out of santoprene, which is a thermoplastic. But yeah, I've done maybe like 3 or 4 molds ever. I'm not stellar at it, but I can kind of do it.
That's very cool. Hey, Jim, I think you're muted, buddy.
I did that. I did that when I got up. I didn't want to. I popped the cabinet door off here. They're magnetic doors, and I didn't want it to be real loud while you guys were talking.
Did you build those enclosures, or just buy those enclosures?
No, I built it just from my head. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, the desk. You can see this is the bench here. You can see this is how tall it is. It's super tall.
That's actually pretty cool. Is that a workbench / 3D printer bench?
Yep. So
That's
I can
cool.
work. It's like I said, it's like 35 inches deep, and then it is 8 feet long on the short side, and then like 5 feet on the other side. But what I wanted was something I could work on and print in at the same time, because I didn't have a ton of space to work with. And I had to work with the interior dimensions first because my printers need to fit, and then worry about the outside later. And it turned into a giant workbench, which I love. I just don't have it all set up yet. Most of my stuff is sitting right here next to me on against the wall here, because I have not taken time to get it all done yet. But what was I gonna say? There's a guy that I believe he's doing Lost PLA casting, Inside the Mind of Matt. I don't know if you've ever seen his channel.
Nope.
He's turned his focus a lot to drones now, and he does a lot of that stuff now. But he was printing in PLA the gates and everything, and then casting them. So if you get a chance, if you remember that, it's called Inside the Mind of Matt, and his older stuff, probably a few months ago. From then back, you'll see almost all of it's all about casting. It's really cool.
So does he not burn the plastic out first? He actually it stays in there, and he pours in the metal and it pops it out?
I believe it burns it out while the metal goes in.
That's how this that other one that I'd watched the video,
because wax vaporizes the plastic, and it's possible it does. Maybe he builds that into that way.
I'd have to go check it out because I can't remember. It's been a minute since I saw one of those videos, because he's, like I said, he kind of transitioned to his drone racing and stuff, which is cool. But I'm pretty sure he burns it out. I believe, because he builds into his prints and everything. He prints the gates and all that stuff. It's really cool. He's put a lot of thought into that.
Yeah,
that's
really
done his process, through time. So yeah, he knows it.
That is, like I said, that's really cool stuff. I would love to try it, and that would be my one really good use case for resin. But
there's so much you can do with just like a regular FDM printer. There's so much you can do with it. And the cool thing is, think about this. The way they work now, with the LCD printers, right? You can put as much that will fit on a build plate as you can, within reason, with the right supports and stuff, and it doesn't take any longer. So if I have 5 of one piece and they're all the same, it's going to take the same amount of time as if it's one of one piece, because it's just the whole layer.
Right.
And that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool.
What was that?
If it's a screen-based one.
Yeah, if it's a SLA, I believe. Right? Yeah, SLA.
Well, because they also have the laser ones. Those are also SLA, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna get confused. Now I'm gonna say something wrong, and then the chat's gonna blow me up on it. But I believe, there's MSLA and there's
yours
SLA,
is probably MXLA, because you're using an LCD screen to mask the UV light. I just both call them SLA, but one uses like Form Labs, I think, uses a laser, whereas the hobby-based one.
DLP. There we go. Thank you. I knew it was. I was gonna say. I was like DLP, and I was like, if I say that, I'm gonna get blown up. Thank you, Tyler, for jumping on that grenade for us.
So, matter of fact, I think Tom's Hardware just released a video today. He was doing had the Prusa printer on there, and what I thought was interesting, and I did not know this, nor have seen this before, but I guess the Prusa resin printer, the container actually bends down, so that way it clears off each layer independently and makes it so that way you get a cleaner finish for it, which I did not know, mainly because I don't have a resin printer. So,
well, I never knew that. I watched a video today while I was working. I just had it on, and when he started talking about it, I had to look at my phone quick, and the whole vat
so you saw that same video? Yeah. That was crazy.
The whole vat moves, and if you think about that, it has to be so precise to go back to exactly where it moved from every single time. That is crazy to me.
Yep. And I mean, I'm sure it's got some variance, but such a small amount that it doesn't matter. But off it, and the printer's so much more expensive. I mean, it's like light years ahead of if you got like a Mars or, you know, any of the other ones that are in that like $300 range. That Prusa one's like 5 times as much. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, but I
You
mean, you're
could-
paying for the Prusa technology. You know, they don't do things cheap, but they do things well. I always call them like the Cadillac. So I've thought about getting one, but then I've been blowing my fund budget, so I might end up getting a Mars.
Well, the thing is, how do I say this? If you're just getting into it, right? In my opinion, you have no idea if you're going to like it or not. And that is a lot of money to go towards the Prusa. There's no returns on that, right? You know, you can't send it back to Amazon if you buy
just
Prusa.
call Joe up. Hey, buddy,
Yeah.
come on, we're returning this.
So I mean, that's just a lot of money. I mean, I just like the reason why the Ender 3 is a good printer. It's cheap. It'll get you into the hobby, and if you like it, go from there. Buy a Prusa, buy whatever you want, right?
Yep.
Just the same thing. A Photon, the Mars, anything. Oh, nice, nice, Tyler. You know, start with those, and if you like it, move up. Someone will buy that Mars that you have, or someone will buy, like I said, the Photon. Tyler said he's buying a Prusa within the next month just because. I have someone in the community offered to give me a kit. They're building a bear, so taking everything off theirs, throwing it on a full bear. What's it called? A big bear frame, you know. And they're like, "Do you want the frame? Do you want the kit?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll take it." So maybe in the future this year, you might see a whole bunch of authentic, if I can find my camera, parts on a build on a real frame. But
that is the one of the and you know, I mean, you've seen them, Jim. I've got the whole series on how to build a 3D printer start to finish. That is like one of the coolest things about 3D printing is that if you want to upgrade your system or make a whole new one, all you have to do is take the usable parts off of your printer. I mean, steppers don't really change that much. The nozzle doesn't change that much. I mean, sure, you could vary it, but I mean, I literally could take my Ender, every part off of it, put it on a different kind of frame, and have another kind of printer. I mean, it would work just the same. It doesn't have to be, you know, the brand anymore. They're very commodity parts on them.
Yeah. One thing I really like, Gary Walsh made a good point. The Creality came out with the LD002R, the new resin printer they came out with. May or may not be sitting right over here. I can't confirm or deny that. But anyways, one thing I really like about them is almost all of them are using the same screen right now. I mean, if you look at if you start looking at the parts, a lot of that stuff is interchangeable, and you can find them super cheap. Tom pointed that out on his video today. You can get a 4-pack of extra vats for like $40 or something.
Yep.
And I think it's $90 or something like that for the Prusa one. You know, that is super helpful if you want to have a bunch of different colors. You don't want to clean that thing out every single time to change a color. You know, you just have one this color, pop it out, pop it in there, and you can go. And I know Chris Nerese from the channel Nerese, Chris, he does color changes on his prints. So on his resin prints, he stops it, loads a different color in, and starts it again. And he's getting some cool prints like that.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing that I think more than anything else kind of makes me not want to go the resin route is the odor, the cleanup, the mess that it creates. It's really one of those things I feel like you got to be more or less committed to, right? With 3D printing, I mean, I guess it's very similar, but I don't have a roll of PLA that's going to kill me if I breathe the fumes of it. So
that we know.
I got to really be trying to die on PLA, but maybe not so much on resin printing. And the other thing that I don't know that is really out there is a lot of the safety of resin printing, right? I mean, let's be honest. A lot of the laser cutters, printers, all of that comes from China. And I imagine it, they're trying to sell their product. I don't think safety is always the top of their mind, shall we say.
No. Yep.
So I always worry about that because I'm like, well, what if I get into this resin printing and then, I've got something growing like a third eye out of my ear or something. I worry about, I legitimately worry about the safety of some of those chemicals. They and there's no standards to it. There's no regulation at all. It's just goo in a jar, And
I'm not sure if that's true because I think
they have an
MSDS.
MSDS
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
whether you trust it.
You trust it. Yeah, because we've never gotten something that wasn't right on the label.
But let's be honest. There is no science. I can't say no. There's so little scientific evidence about any of it. The FDM printing as well.
Yeah.
They're saying that there's VOCs, right, that come off of even PLA. But how bad is it for you from here or from here or from here or across the room? Nobody knows. And there's people that have 10 or 15 of these in a room that they're in all day every day, and
they'll be our canary.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. That's the problem. I have birds in my house, right? And I have birds and sugar gliders. And I mean, I can't even cook with Teflon without keeping the doors closed.
Yep.
Because the birds will die.
Teflon fever, flu.
Yeah. So think about if it'll kill birds in another room with a door closed, or it could, right? Or especially if the door's open. Think about how bad it is for you standing right over it. Like,
Yep, and that is exactly the point. Is
Right.
that there's no real info on it, right? I mean,
it could be acceptable levels, right?
and it's interesting you mentioned this. So, true story. We had one of the people in our Discord channel, the Arcade Classroom, who is a STEM teacher. They do 3D printing, and that obviously is part of educational. So I had a safety director, I believe is what it was called, for the school district, and they said that a 3D printer needed a ventilation hood over it to be able to, just have a 3D printer. Now, I don't know that that's necessarily true of PLA. Maybe it is. Maybe it is just out of an abundance of caution. But, clearly there are some people that are thinking about that and thinking about what the real toxicity is of these plastics in that, glass state, if you will.
There was an article just recently, and it might be related to that. I would say within the last month that was talking about how unsafe PLA printing and stuff is. And I think it got a lot of hackles raised, and I don't know how accurate it is.
I know that when I print with PLA, you can catch a whiff of PLA printing when you're, especially like a large model or something, and you come back like later, you smell the nozzle hot, you smell the plastic that's kind of there, but it's not, it's not like ABS or
right.
And I think I got a little. I don't remember the last time I haven't printed in Petchin a little bit, but I think that one even had like a slightly different odor than say ABS, but or PLA. But yeah, I mean that odor, I have no idea if it's good.
Yeah, and Gary, he said throw it in a grow tent with a charcoal filter on the printer, and then one in the grow tent with a 192 CFM fan. That's the other thing. A lot of people, a lot of scientific evidence say that charcoal filters will help, filter out the VOCs. Again, who knows how much it really helps. You can't see it because we're kind of narrow right now, but in my enclosure right over here, I have a really big charcoal filter in through an inline duct, and then it's going to go up, but I don't have the ceiling in, but it'll go up out the ceiling. It'll cycle that, and it'll filter it through.
Now, did you do that for your resin, or you just did that for your printers as a whole?
I did it for my printers, and then as before I had resin or even thought about having resin. But now, can you make me wide?
Yeah.
That was a funny question because I'm already wide, but
I can relate.
So let's see where I'm at here. So right here, I have just printers. This is the obviously the taller part of my enclosure. Okay, I have a CME CNC Rostock Max V4 here, and then Ender 5 Plus and blah blah blah. But this was originally going to be a big filament cabinet. Now what I'm going to probably do is enclose this up here, and this is actually pretty wide. Let's see if you can. There we go. Now there's a mic in the way, but let's see if I can do this for you. See how big that is there? What I'm probably going to do now is enclose that and put a vent, like basically like you'd see in the wall. I'm going to print one and put it between the top and the bottom. So when I turn that filter on in the bottom, it'll pull the fumes out of that top cabinet into that filter and then blow it out. That way it helps a little bit, right? I mean, but now because I got to rework that whole cabinet.
Yeah.
At least the top of it. But I thought what would be really cool is I'll do silicone on the whole bottom of it, or on the bottom surface, and then I'll put a vent in there, just a passive vent, and then when I turn on the filtration in the bottom, it'll pull down, and then hopefully filter it out through that charcoal, that charcoal filter. But again, like we're talking, who knows how much that really is going to help, and I'm hoping this year to have a video on that. So I'm gonna get a VOC meter, and I'm gonna put it in there, and we're gonna measure everything going, and I'm gonna turn on my ventilation and see if it helps. And I'm actually I have a fun video plan for that. So
I started building these. It's interesting you talk about.
I saw that video. That's a good video.
Yeah, so I built one of these, and this is if you haven't seen this video, it's on the channel. Basically, what I built here was a carbon filter system for basically soldering. So if I've got the work that I'm working on right here, it will suck this solder through this, and this is just a computer case fan. So with just a couple of parts and some 3D printing, you get a nice little portable. It runs off batteries or whatnot. But I've thought about expanding this out. So that way I can start using these on different goosenecks. But it would be curious once you do get the ability to know how much VOC is there. I'd be curious to see how much we could eliminate with something small like this, because then the question becomes, can I just put this near my 3D printer when it's printing and pull the fumes through something like this and reduce it? I like simple solutions that are easily to, I could take something like this and build 10 of them, and it costs me, a few bucks or even free because I've got case fans laying around the basement here. So
right. Well, I have like many people probably in the chat and many people around the world. I built when I first got my Ender 3. My wife's like, we probably should filter this. I don't know if we want it in the house, that kind of thing. So I built a lac enclosure, like many people did. A giant fire hazard, really, is what I built. But it's awesome. And in that lac enclosure, because she wanted to see it filtered, I found a couple different files on Thingiverse. I put them together, and one of them cuts through the lac enclosure. It has a vent on the bottom. You stack charcoal, just like what you got there, charcoal filters in there, and then it takes a fan that sits on top of that, and then what I did from there, normally that's where it stops. What I did from there is I found another one that was a HEPA filter, and I found out that it actually would fit on top of that top fan shroud. So I bolted that down, and it goes up, and then it uses little Roomba HEPA filters, and so I tape that in, and then I put the top on it so it seals it in. I tape it just because I don't want air flowing out around it, right? Mm-hmm. And then so basically I was pulling up through charcoal and pushing out through a HEPA filter. I imagine it helped. I don't know, but it was a good solution at the time, and what I was so proud of, it was my first functional print.
And see, that's what's cool, right? I mean, you're printing stuff, you're making cool maker stuff, right. And I'd be really curious. And as we talk about, plastic and the fumes they give off, if you have the ability to measure that, I would be very interested.
Sure.
to test that out, because I'm just curious. I don't know how much they give off, and like you had said earlier, to your point, how much distance there is. Is that something that's it's hazardous 5 feet away, but 20 feet away, it doesn't matter anymore.
Thomas 3D Print Viking said he designed and printed something like that for his photon. This is actually a print for an Anycubic photon. This is the one I printed when I bought it from Greg. Well, my original plan was, as you can see right here, if I can get out of the way. So this is where the bench goes up to that higher part. I was going to put this bolts onto the back of your photon. You take out the piece here, you bolt this on, and then you put a 4-inch piece of dryer tube there.
Yep.
And then I was going to use this through the wall and couple it. So it blew it straight in to
outside. Sure.
Enclosure. Yeah. Well, it would blow it into the enclosure, which would be vented out. And then I ended up with 4 of them now, and this doesn't make sense to do anymore. But when I had one, I was super excited because people are really smart. They're doing these kind of things. And like Thomas said, he vents it and it pumps it right outside. And a lot of people actually put there's another one with a blower, or you can put a fan on here and push it out, which is really cool. But another functional print. This is super strong. It's just PLA. It's not going to hurt anything, and it's not going anywhere on the back of that. It doesn't get hot. So
PLA is kind of interesting as a filament as a whole. I personally find that it has a little bit more trouble when you start stressing it in any way. Now, not when I mean by stress, I'm not talking about necessarily like bending it or trying to break it, but temperature extreme. So it's like it's inside, then it's outside, and it kind of gets that weather exposure. I've had some prints that I've put outside that end up not doing so well when they're in PLA. But I find things, I find that I like to print in TPU for a lot of things that need to go outside, because it's a polyurethane, so it's very durable. But then on top of that, it also has more of a durability in the sense that I've printed numerous things, take them outside, they get knocked over. It doesn't break. It doesn't chip. It just kind of bounces off. And you can get different colors. They look a little more unique compared to, say, a solid colored PLA plastic. But I find TPU works really well outdoors, and not a lot of fumes out of that one either.
All my, you can probably see, man, I'm backwards today. So the electrical doesn't have a plate on it yet. I'm printing all of those. It's going to be black carbon fiber PETG that I have from Atomic. I'm super pumped to get those done.
It's interesting you talk about carbon fiber. Did you get a hardened steel nozzle, or?
I have some hardened steel nozzles. I just got. I'm actually going to put some of the new Easy Flow TH3D nozzles to the test. It's going to be awesome.
Is that just brass, or is that?
Give me 2 seconds and I'll pull it up so I don't misquote this. Because
some of them are like a plated nickel, which is, that's cool too. They're just putting a better coating. I guess what I was getting at is, so I recently saw a Reddit post about carbon fiber. Now, I'm of the opinion, or at least I should say I was of the opinion until I saw this forum post, that it's just a brass nozzle. I don't really care. They're like 20 cents. I can buy 100. I don't really care if I have to replace them. I can do that. So this Reddit post had somebody that was using carbon fiber with a brass nozzle. And I was like, okay, let's check this out. And in 2 prints, it had opened up that brass nozzle to like 3 times the diameter of what it was from the start. And it was like 2 to 3 prints he said he'd done. And that nozzle was already wasted. And I'm like, okay, well, okay, maybe I'd still go brass, but to replace a nozzle after every print seems a bit excessive. Maybe
you need the tool changer then.
Right.
Right. Or a
But I
nozzle.
mean,
Or a
you know,
nozzle.
maybe buying the hardened nozzle for that might be a little bit better. But yeah, so I saw that and I'm like, well, so much for that idea of trying to print it with a brass nozzle. That's just out the window at this point.
The 3D Mist printer says he pumps the fumes directly into his bedroom so he can breathe them all night long.
Oh yeah, that's how you get the best dreams, buddy.
It's what he says. It doesn't make me sleepy. So the Easy Flow nozzles, I haven't done the videos on them yet, but what they are is they're a high temp copper alloy, and then they have a plating on them, a tough plating. So we'll find out. I'm hoping to pump them. Now I have some.
He gets four prints, and then after that, you've got to.
Hey, we'll find out. I also have some of the Vision Miner, the steel nozzles. I have. Trying to remember what nozzles I have. I have too many. I probably will never do a ruby because if I break that, it'll make me sad. I had that discussion Monday on my show. I would rather bury a bunch of those crappy nozzles than to buy an expensive one and then ruin it and have to buy it again.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that this Fadis hot end. They also sent me this very cool, which I thought these were kind of neat. This little tin of nozzles. So they sent me like a hardened one and then a steel nozzle, and I think they sent me another plated nozzle. But interesting enough, they did not send the tungsten nozzle that they had, which I said, you know, we're willing to test that too. They did not send the tungsten or the ruby nozzle that they also supply. So I was a bit disappointed, but that's okay. They sent me other stuff, so I'm all happy. But
should we mention?
I think the tungsten is going to be the way to go. I mean, super hard and, you know, good thermal conductivity.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up. I think, was it Nick a couple times ago?
Yep.
Was saying how, like, that's one thing people don't realize is with you go to the hardened, like the steel and stuff, it thermally is differently. And what he said, he's printing with the steel nozzle for a while. He had it all tuned in, and then he like switched to the brass and like back to a normal one. He's like, wow, this works so much better. And then Jim, you talked about the Easy Flow. They have something that's supposed to be good for thermal conductivity, and it's hardened instead of just being hardened.
Yeah, that's one of the things. I was down at TH3D a couple weekends ago, and he had some printing. And what he really liked about them is that you had to really you had to fix your temps when you put them on, because you can print. Tim said you can print faster because it has 3 times the heat transfer. And of the brass ones, and I'm looking at his page here. I think it says 6 times the heat transfer of steel. I know there's a couple people in chat that say that they have them. I just asked if they liked them or not, but I heard, you know, from what he said. I watched his printer pushing as fast as it possibly will go, and it was just flying, man, on that nozzle. And I was thinking this could be pretty cool, but it could be pretty dangerous.
Yeah.
Dangerous meaning I'll burn through so much plastic it might be a problem.
Nice. Well, that's a good problem to have, right?
Yeah, and they're copper, so they're again, they're copper, you know, high temp copper alloy. So
Sure.
You know, they're going to conduct that heat different, just like you're saying, going from the brass to the copper to any of them, really. I mean, they're all going to be different. So just remember that before you, in my opinion, before you print with any of these, do a temp tower because my guess is your temperature is going to be all sorts of crazy from your normal.
Yep, absolutely. So it looks like Zolan has a question in here. He was saying, I cannot for the life of me get this 3D fused Y rail square. Bed edge from upright extrusion is closer to the rear versus the front. Yeah. So if you're talking about, and I'll switch the view here because I do have the 301 actually right here next to me. If you're talking about getting, let me see if I can get it on the camera here. Almost. There we go. So if you're talking about this Y rail right here, what I found the best way to get these on and to make sure that they square up across the entire side of the printer is to loosen all 4 at the base. So that way the whole thing shifts left and right like that. And then once you get that to start shifting left and right, then you can also move the bed forward and back. And then once you do that, you can usually get it so that way they're all lined up, and then just try to tighten them from one corner to the other. And that's how I have found works really well for when you're building a printer to get those rails aligned. So that's been my kind of fix for that.
Yeah, and he's doing the I had a guy over and we did all of the 3D fused linear rails, right? And that's what he's playing with now is 3D fused linear rails, I believe. And you pull everything off your Y, and this goes on an Ender 3. It goes on in place of that.
Yep.
And there is that you got to get that thing straight or pretty dang straight. What is the other thing is important. I was going to ask him if he's using the spacers to raise it up a little bit. Otherwise, we found that the wheels that you adjust everything with, those bolts will hit the frame.
Are those offset cam bolts that you twist and then they like push the?
Oh no, I'm talking about to raise and lower the bed on the Ender 3. They have those those
wheels.
Yeah, wheel, and that bolt is just long enough where it hits. So 3D Fuse started including, I believe, some spacers to throw in to fix that. And he says yes on the spacers, which is good. I think as long as you're close or very close and you're not hitting. So when you go back and forth on your Y, you just want to make sure you're not hitting, obviously the side extrusions, right? And very, very, you just want to be close because I don't think you're ever going to get it perfect, but obviously you don't want your bed sitting like this going back and forth. You have a diamond shaped bed,
That could be a desired effect if you want diamond shaped prints,
Yeah.
Diamond Dave, yeah.
Tony, I believe Tony, he was over, and that was a lot of fun. We put a Zesty Nimble on that day too, which I think he's actually, if anyone's watching that, watch that video. He took it off. Just too many issues dialing that thing in. I think Chris Riley actually talked about that on this last week's Fun in the Country Basement about his Zesty Nimble. He's hoping that the second version that they're about to come out with, or maybe they did already, fixes some of the issues of the first one. Because have you guys seen the Zesty Nimble? You know what that is? So essentially, it's a cable drive, direct drive replacement. So
I have seen that.
Yeah, you're on the back of the
instead of the
Yep, it's a cable that runs up to the hot end, and then you direct drive your filament in, and that cable is turned by the extruder that sits back on the extrusion that drives that cable. So it twists back and forth on a cable, that's inside a sheathing.
Yeah, it's the same way like the Dremel extender works. So
exactly.
If you've got like one of those little Dremel extenders for your craft work or whatever. Yeah, I have seen that. I couldn't remember the name, but yep, I've definitely seen that.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it works. The problem is backlash on it, and it's supposed to make the hot end lighter and all that, all that stuff, which is great, but dialing it in is not great.
Yeah, I would imagine you'd have a lot of flex in there. Just knowing how a Bowden reacts with putting filament through it. It literally move the Bowden tube while you're retracting. So I can only imagine what it'd be like when you're shaft in the center of it, and that's turning and trying to drive a forceful geared extruder. So yeah, I could definitely see that being a little out of control.
Yeah, so far the chat, Corey says he had one. He gave it to Chris Riley. So, I mean, it just from what I heard, I think it's a cool idea. If they could refine it, maybe the second version is refined. I think it'll be a cool idea.
Yep.
But Tony. I'm actually gonna meet up with Tony when he gets. I think he's out of town, but when he gets back, and I think I'm gonna buy his from him so I can play with it.
Very cool. Very cool.
If anything, it'll be a Dremel extender. No.
So we what's left here of the show. I kind of wanted to see if there was any other questions anyone had. Otherwise, what I'd like to do is kind of go around and find out what you guys are currently printing. What is the current 3D printer filament you're using, and also what sort of things are you printing right now? I know what I'm printing right now. I can kick it off. Last video, and this is a little hard to see here. Maybe I can get some contrast with the background. What I am currently printing are 3D printer parts for the X301 printer. So last week we had Mekius, or Nick, who is in our channel Discord, and both Nick and I have been working over the last, I want to say about 8-9 months on the printer that Jim, you saw the first prototype of at the Milwaukee Maker Faire. So that prototype printer is now about to have its third prototype built, and to that end, we're building hopefully the last of the parts right now. So I am printing these parts, but then we're going to start if the third prototype ends up the last one, which I think it will be, or very close to the final one, along with these 3D printer parts. I also have been working. I got some 2080 extrusion in, and that's all for that printer. So we're going to be starting up that X301 Core XY build series like our C201, and then you'll be able to see step by step, start to finish, how to build your own Core XY printer. So that's going to be our one of our video series this year in 2020. So Jesse, what are you currently printing? What filament are you currently using right now?
I'm on a almost empty roll of Hatchbox. I don't have anything printing right now, but the most recent thing I printed was basically these are those little LED boards. There's 10 of them on a panel. And I wanted to make them more efficient, so I got a solder stencil. So I needed to make something that I could drop the board in, that the stencil can go right on top of, and then I can squeegee on, and then I can place the parts, and I have a
that's pretty cool
reflow oven. I did the same thing at work for a part. I just designed a little base that keeps it centered, and this tape, it's a tape hinge, but gets the job done. So that's the last thing I printed. I still got to populate and run these through my toaster oven.
Now, did you do that in Fusion 360, or what did you use for the model? Yep,
Fusion 360.
I like Fusion 360. I don't like how they changed that licensing recently. Not because I was abusing it, just it seems like they've kind of made it a hassle now. So I know I used to have a couple of computers where I'd switch between them, and now I've got to suspend the session and go back.
Yeah, same thing happens to me a lot.
It's kind of a pain in the butt. So Jim, what are you currently printing with, and what are you currently printing?
Literally right now I'm printing another one of those maker coins. I have a couple projects going on for videos. I have a helmet I need to print for 3D Print Viking. I don't know if you've seen Thomas's. He's got a really sweet Viking helmet. Graciously, Llama and him said that they would share the STL with me, so I'm going to print that pretty quick. But mostly, I've been doing this, working on the resin stuff, trying to learn it, trying to get that video done so I can move on to the next one. But I'm having a little bit of issues with the vat. I don't know if it's because of the temperature in here. I don't know if it's something I'm doing, or maybe it's an LCD screen issue. But yeah, pretty much. Primarily right now I'm working on this kind of stuff, and I have a couple actually. While you guys are talking, I'll grab one of the prints. I just got to put a glove on. I didn't cure it yet. Show you what I did.
Sure. Yeah. Take a second. Sure.
Oh yeah, and I print a lot of different stuff, but I like coax filament because they're from Wisconsin here. There's a lot of good filaments out there lately. Actually, there've been a lot of good stuff. I do a lot of coax stuff just because they sponsor my channel and for my show and stuff. But stuff like this, that was a really nice filament as well. Arion, I hate to say that, but I think it's called Arion, right? That rainbow filament they have is awesome.
Ooh, I'd be interested in that. My last rainbow filament I got from Amazon was garbage. It clogged the
You just did a video on that filament where a lot of people were saying prints like crap, and you said, nope, doesn't print like crap. Just got to tune the settings.
Yeah, the guys at the First Layer did one, and he got a lot of garbage. He got a lot of crap for that video, so I wanted to do one too, just to say, wait, I'm seeing the same results. Because for a while they had some good stuff, and all of a sudden everything they had seemed to go real bad. And I don't know if they switched distributors or makers or what they did, but then they listened to everybody, and they seem to have fixed it. The other cool thing...
Well, I've got a roll of shiny gold here, and it prints like crap. So
does it? Is it newer or older?
It's older. It's probably I don't know, at least 9 to 12 months old. So
oh yeah. So
I will say mine wasn't that company. I was just referencing Rainbow stuff in general. The stuff I bought was not very good.
So if you see my, I'll pop this up. I'll share it for you. There we go. So I just shared a screen there. The other stuff I've been printing is called Fillablend. Have you guys seen this stuff? They were at Murph last year. They sold out super quick.
Yeah, they were there a couple years ago too.
If you pop me back up, I'll show you what it does.
Sure. Oops.
Oh, you popped him out.
Oh, there we go. I got a little overzealous with the button there.
I didn't even pay attention, so I didn't even.
Oh yeah, no, we totally laid waste to you. You were gone. We brought you back.
It happens. Can you pop my? Am I sharing my screen still?
Oh, that's what you want. All right.
Sorry about that. So, so you see that? So, it's a mix of 3 colors.
Mm-hmm.
So, it literally they take 3 different atomic filament colors, and they extrude them into one roll. And when you print, you just get the coolest stuff, man. That stuff is awesome, and it's atomic, which is really good filament too.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that. What I've wanted to do, I think more as an experiment than anything else, is get one of those mixing head extruders, one of the 2s or the 3s, and do very similar type of thing to that, except have it mix different colors, the 3 different colors together, and create a random pattern, or maybe even a static pattern with different colors like that. So that's something I wanted to try as well. But it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I this is the way I just see it, is I see that a lot of times when people get those multicolor filaments, they always print a vase. And I honestly have no use for 20 vases in my house. So I don't buy a lot of rainbow filament. I don't know what else I would use it for.
Nice job, Zolan. I printed a vase because it's really quick way to show off what that filament does.
Yep.
But
after that, I don't have anything else to print. I just don't know what I would print in rainbow.
That's true. I did a sweet castle with the last filament. But so here's my very, very first.
I see what it is.
The child, we'll call it. I don't want to make everybody mad because it's literally not Baby Yoda, right? But it's my first one, and I did on that. Here, let's see if I can get it to.
That looks really cool.
Let's see if I can get it to focus, because it's.
Oh,
there goes his ear. No, I'm joking.
Well, go ahead and just print another copy. We'll wait, Jim.
Yeah, we'll just do it quick. So that's my first one. Now, if you see, and I don't want to touch this with my, I actually already rinsed and cleaned all this stuff up really well, but I just didn't cure it yet. But if I can see right in this area, there's some weird film kind of stuff in the supports there. And it looks like it's part of the print, but it's not. It's like right here. And that's what I'm seeing in the vat. And there's another piece up here. If I can get it to zoom, that would be even better. But what's really weird is it's like this weird random film. And I'm not sure what's going on. So
okay, I kind of see it.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's like it looks a little glossy, or like there's a metal chip in it.
Kind of, but it's like a really flimsy. If I had another glove on, I would show you, because I could literally like flake it off. And You know,
Like
with
molding, it would be flash.
yeah. That's a good way to say it. But it's just so weird that it's doing it, and it's just random. So it could be too cold of area. I heard that needs to be 68 degrees in my garage all the time. So now I'm gonna have to crank the heat up a little bit. I was cruising at 60, but the other thing is, you know, I just don't know why it would randomly cry. Someone said, "Don't drop the baby Yoda." But I'm gonna take the all the supports off here. This is just default. So everything I'm doing for this video coming up, I literally I used Cheetah. I don't know how to say it, Cheetah Box or Cheetah Box. If it's Thomas Sandlander, it's Cheetah Box. but it's all default stuff. Default base profile that came with it. The base supports that are automatic. I didn't change anything because a new person into it is never going to do that. They're not going to know to do that, right? But yeah, that's one of them. Does the film appear before or after bath? Before, while it's printing. So what's really weird about this is the whole bottom of the FEP, the whole bottom of the vat against the FEP is all that weird film at the end of the print. And it shouldn't be. So I'm not sure if it's the printer or it could be just, it could have got too cold in here, but what's really, I was keeping it, like I said, 60. So that's it.
Not done any of those resin prints. I wouldn't know, but
So,
yeah, that's definitely kind of weird.
When you're done, you said that the whole bottom has that flaky. Is it possible the stuff you're seeing are stuff that's like ripping off from the bottom?
Maybe.
That looks really
But why
cool.
why is it there is the question.
Yeah, that's the good point. So this is an example of, like I said, totally, completely base, and this is not as high a resolution as a Photon or the Creality printer, but totally base. This was the test print that came on the jump drive, and it is, wow, this camera sucks. The intricacy, if I could talk, is just amazing what you can get out of these things. Whoa. Where and when is Murph and Earth? I need a venue. Go ahead if you want to answer that one.
Yeah, Murph is in Goshen, Indiana, which I think is like is or near the RV capital of the United States.
Murph is amazing. If you get time, go to Murph.
I'd like a quick story about Murph. I went 2 years ago. It was the first time I went, and they had like taco night, which is sponsored by Google every year. And so we're all in this other building eating tacos and talking, and people bring like their local beers and stuff. And then when we went back to the exhibit hall, it must have been like midnight, and it's still like 90% of the people are still there, like having a good time. It's just awesome. Like a giant nerd party. It was awesome.
It is, and it's more 3D printing people showing their stuff off. Earth is, I went to Earth this year too, and Earth was really cool, but it didn't have the same feel. It was a little bit different feel, but it was still pretty cool. But if you have a chance, get to Murph, Goshen, Indiana. Not much, but some Amish people in a Walmart.
April 3rd.
Yeah, it's early this year. Here's another piece that I did. But you can kind of see, if I spin it, see that thing by my thumb right now that's sticking out there?
Yep.
That's what I'm trying to say. It's that stuff.
So
there.
I don't know what's causing it, but I imagine that when you're seeing it up on this like other parts of the surface, it's because it's come off of the bed.
Yeah, it might. Yeah, that it might be.
Is it not
on the bed
is
and
it
like
not masking enough? So it's partially curing. Like, does the mask not shut off properly? So over time, that UV, because it's on, it's on the bed the whole time.
Right. That's what I was thinking. Maybe the LCD is up. Something's wrong with it. Because it's really weird. The part finishes, obviously, right? But it just has that crap everywhere. And this is a really cool. That's actually a knight, a part of you think it's a pawn, but it's actually a knight, part of a chess. Wow, I suck at this game. There we go.
Oh, you got it there.
Oh, so there we go. So I'd have two use cases: a chess set, and then I would
yes.
do. So I could print like two things with it now. So I'm
You could, and the best part is you could print many chess pieces.
All at the same time, right? Save
And you
myself
could
all
do-
the effort.
The sweet ones, like the pawns you see that are like a castle with a spiral staircase and a dragon around it, and you could print some really cool stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely cool.
I was at a game convention back in end of October, and some guy was selling 3D printed miniatures, and I bought one there and I painted it that weekend, and it looked really fantastic. And I've painted some 3D printed miniatures before, and this quality was really, really great. So they've come a long way.
Yeah, the quality of miniatures is amazing. I have a game store.
Oh, I have a picture of it. If I could
here in town, they do. It's a game place. You can go and play your games at essentially. And I'm going to go in and talk to the owners because we were talking about dice towers, FDM printed dice towers that we can do, but miniatures is another.
Funny, I just built one of those for my my son for the holidays. I printed him. Matter of fact, the same one that you have, Jesse. The one that you printed for your wife with the gate that folds down.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
If you want to show the screen, I can show what it looks like painted.
Nice.
Oh yeah, hang on. There we go.
Oh, there we go. Yep. So I painted this at the convention. And it's,
nice.
You can't even see the print lines.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah. I'm going to get one just for miniatures.
And Jesse, you do a lot of this, a lot of painting of these prints. What would you say was a typical amount of time for a print that size?
For painting?
Start to finish.
I'm a very slow painter, so that for me is maybe like 6 hours or more. There's some people can knock that out in like an hour, but I'm terribly slow.
Yeah, I'm not a good painter.
And I'm not an artist.
Bot. I could make something paint for me, but I would have a hard time painting myself. So
I consider it like a technical task because it's so small. So I don't think I'm an artist. I just like it's fine detail work. So, and I also solder stuff, so that's just.
I don't have the attention span. and I shake too much. Anyone who knows me in person and sees me, I shake a lot.
Yeah, there's some tricks for that, but you kind of put your hands together, but it's hard.
You should see me when I'm trying to shoot with a laser sight. The laser is like.
This also does explain why you've got stubble and a beard. Not one with the shaving. No,
this is lazy.
Don't want shaking hands and a razor anywhere near your face. So
yeah. Well, what's funny is I'll tell the story a different time. I was going back to my shooting analogy. I was learning, and the person I was learning with, who was training us, saw the laser, and he's like, you know what? Just worry about center mass. Don't worry about. I was like, cool. All right.
Just get it close. Just get it close.
That's the short version of that story. But
all right. Well, it is coming up on 9 o'clock here, our time, Central Time here. So it's going to be the end of our show for tonight. I definitely want to thank Jim for coming on the show. Jim, you want to give it a shout out for your channel there? Please go check out Jim's channel if you have not checked it out already.
Yeah, check it out. It's right here. It's called The Edge of Tech. You can find me pretty much everywhere. Monday nights we have a live show, so come check me out Monday. Come here on Fridays. How about that? And if you're in here because I posted and you graciously came, check out the Maker Mashup channel and hit that subscribe button. These guys are awesome. Their videos are really cool, and they're putting together some really cool printers. So check that out. Also, I don't know if you guys know. Do you know the First Layer guys? It's another channel. It's called The First Layer. They're out of Canada. I saw they went live, and they have some really good stuff. So if you guys want after this, check them out.
Nice. Well, thanks everybody for showing up tonight. Like Jim said, check out our Discord down below. Like I said, that is kind of an online makerspace. So it's really a great way that if you have questions on projects or just want to hang out with other makers, find out what they're working on, post pictures of what you're working on. It's a great place to hang out. And the link for that Discord is down below. So check that out if you want to hang out and talk. Someone's in there almost all the time, so you can usually touch base with somebody in there.
I get notifications all day, so.
Yep. And Jesse, thank you again. Jesse is one of our MVPs and one of our Maker Mashup team members here that helps out with the channel and, is always in the Discord as well. And just overall great guy to have around. So that is going to be it for our show tonight. I would just thank everybody again for showing up tonight. We do this bi-weekly, so our next episode will be in 2 weeks, and we'll have YouTube videos out between then. So thanks again for watching.
Thank you.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.